the concluding chapter of a trilogy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show where we like scary movies.
Like scary movies?
Well, I feared this day would come, and here it is. It's time to talk about the black sheep of the Scream franchise, the weird little guy that had so much potential, and yet so many disappointments. Scream 3.
I'm sorry.
The concluding chapter of the trilogy. Well, before they made another one 11 years later, and then a fifth one 11 years after that, and then a sixth one taking place in New York, and next thing you know, it's gonna be Ghostface in space in the seventh one. But before we get there, let's get back to this quote-unquote final chapter. How did it come to be? Well, to no one's surprise, Scream 2 made a lot of money, and making a third one wasn't even a question. It just had to happen. And thankfully, this time around, little fuckers on the internet did not leak the full script online like they did in Scream 2. Wait, who is that again? Huh? Well, therefore, production on the third one went pretty well, I'd say. Oh, wait, did I say well? No, I meant horrendously horrible. Once again.
Making Screams has not been easy.
So first off, Kevin Williamson is not back to write this one. So, you know, off to a great start. Williamson was busy writing a TV series and some other stuff, and his only involvement with Scream 3 was this short draft that was mostly ignored.
Kevin wrote a treatment, but the treatment was very different than what the movie was.
Everyone wanted him back and waited for him, but at one point Bob Weinstein was growing impatient and he just said, fuck it, let's do the goddamn movie without him. Instead, Aaron Kruger was hired to write Scream 3 based on some outlines left by Williamson. Fun fact, Kruger went on to write The Ring and even Top Gun Maverick. Whoa, that's great. And he even wrote the Transformers sequels. Oh my god. What's wrong with you? And then, according to the Scream documentary, Kruger ditched in the middle of the shoot with the script still incomplete. So then they hired Lita Kalogridis to come along as a writer. Fun fact, she went on to write Shutter Island and produced Avatar. That's great. And she even wrote Terminator Genesis. Oh my god. Now, for some reason, Kalogridis is not credited anywhere for her involvement in the screenplay, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But in any case, Scream 3 once again fell into a writing hell pit. In fact, just like in Scream 2, director Wes Craven also helped a lot with the writing despite not receiving any credit either. It's just a goddamn mess. But that's not all, friends.
Do you think it's over, Sydney?
Turns out Neve Campbell, the one and only Sidney Prescott, you know, the protagonist of these films, well, she too was shooting a couple of movies and she had some scheduling conflict. So basically, she could only be there for about 3 weeks of shooting. Meaning, the main character of this movie is barely in the movie. That's not ideal for the concluding chapter of a trilogy. But oh hey, here's a little cherry on top. The Columbine shooting happened. Oh my lord, everything's fucked. So they had many ideas with this movie. At one point, Matthew Lillard was supposed to be the killer. It took place in Woodsboro.
I had actually been hired to come back in Scream 3 as the killer.
Poof, that's gone. Let's just do something else because Columbine happened and we don't want any shit with that.
The studio was concerned about the sort of moral panic that was in the air at the time.
The producers also decided to significantly cut down the violence and double down on the comedy. So we're left with a bloodless, borderline comedy movie with the main character mostly absent, two screenwriters who aren't familiar with the Scream franchise trying to follow some of Williamson's ideas from his draft while doing their own thing. Add to that the typical rushed production and the very tight deadline, and yeah.
Making Screams has not been easy.
Alright, let's talk about this stupid movie, starting with... It's a Scream movie, so of course we gotta talk about its opening. It's usually the highlight of the film, but unfortunately this one here is pretty weak, and probably my least favorite out of all of these films. It opens with our dear old Cotton Weary, who, 3 movies in, has finally found the fame and fortune he always wanted. So Cotton's stuck in traffic, and he gets a phone call from a lovely lady.
Oh my god, I am talking to Cotton Weary. I can't believe this.
but she turns out to be Ghostface. And what's more, Ghostface is hanging out at Cotton's place, looking at his butt-ass naked girlfriend.
I'm right outside her bathroom door.
Here she is, getting attacked. But what's this? She hears Cotton's voice.
Okay, I'm sorry, babe.
Now, how is it possible that Ghostface has the voice of a young lady and the voice of Cotton Weary, as well as Roger Jackson's voice? Is he just very good at doing impressions? No, it's more stupid than that. Yeah, believe it or not, in Scream 3, the killer has a sci-fi machine that can clone other people's voices to perfection. You heard that right.
Dewey's got our voices.
How fucking stupid is that? I'm all for suspension of disbelief, but the thing with Scream is that it's so anchored in reality. That's kind of the whole point.
Halloween.
What if a horror movie took place in real life with real people? So when you introduce a dumbass voice cloning machine in a movie taking place in 2000, when computers looked like this, it's just a bit too silly for my taste. I hate it. In any case, the rest of the scene goes exactly as you would expect. Cotton gets home, his girlfriend thinks he's the killer.
Gone crazy, that's what!
Then she gets stabbed, and then Cotton gets stabbed, and cut to title. Okay, so this isn't a terrible opening. I mean, the voice thing is really stupid, but otherwise, this is an okay suspense scene where the guy must save his girlfriend in time. We got a pretty okay little chase scene, some pretty mediocre kills, but nothing insultingly bad. My issue with this is that it just doesn't feel like a Scream opening. Usually, the opening sets the tone, introduces the main themes, has some meta self-awareness,
Freddy Krueger.
whether by playing with conventions and cliches or exploring the exploitation of tragic events in movies, but you really don't get any of that in this scene. There's not much to it except for setting up this dumbass voice thing, and well, otherwise, this is just 9 minutes of your typical slasher flick where a lady gets chased around by a killer without much substance or cleverness, especially when you compare it to the opening scenes of the two previous films. Scream 3's opening aside, the rest of the film takes place in Hollywood, where they're making a third stab film, doubling down on the movie within a movie idea that originated in Scream 2. So that's fun and all, until the cast of Stab 3 starts dying one by one. So the cast is scared of dying, and the movie director, Roman, is scared of losing his job.
So if we stop making scary movies, what, all the psychos in the world will retire?
Then there's the producer, John Milton, played by Android Bishop himself. Lance Henriksen. He's this shady dude who used to throw parties in which women would be sexually abused, and Sydney's mother, Maureen, who kinda looks like Matthew Lillard, might just have a history with him. So Dewey and Gale once again team up to search for clues and catch the killer. As for Sydney, she's chilling in the middle of nowhere, away from any psycho boyfriends, or even worse, psycho in-laws. She's just trying to put this all behind, but you know, that's a bit of a struggle when you keep getting visions of your ghost mom. Yes, that's a thing in this movie, there's a ghost mom. And otherwise we have Detective Kincaid, played by Patrick Dempsey. That's fun, I like him. Kincaid is helping with the investigation, and by helping, I mean getting hit in the face a whole fucking lot. Dumbass. Alright, so let me drop a big fat hot take on you. I actually think Scream 3 has some of the best characters in this franchise, besides the first one, of course. Sure, they're not developed a whole lot, you can forget about backstories and arcs, but unlike Scream 2, where I can't remember anyone's name nor their personality, here, these guys have charisma. They're wacky, they're sometimes charming, and hey, they got chemistry. I at least wasn't bored watching them on screen. I like these guys. But of course, the main attraction here, and who I want to focus on the most, is our returning trio, Sydney, Dewey, and Gale. Well, this might be another hot take, but I think these guys were pretty great in Scream 3.
Are you sure?
Well, at least for the beginning, before it went downhill. You can tell that they changed and they grew up. Dewey's not a cop anymore. Instead, he's an advisor on the set of Stab 3, and he's still clearly hurt by how Gale treated him.
It was great seeing you.
How she put her career first instead of him. Speaking of which, Gale's back, baby, and she's still hungry for fame. But she's starting to realize that being the bad guy that everyone hates might not be worth it.
So you're saying that we should be ready to go out and cut each other's throats because that's what you did?
You know, she evolved a little. That's nice. As for Sydney, she now works at a women's crisis hotline, which is great, unlike in Scream 2, where her character was essentially an exact replica of Sydney from Scream 1. Here, she managed to turn this trauma and pain into something positive to help others in need. That's very nice. In this one, Sydney is also haunted by her past, as shown with the silly ghost mom, but also when she visits the set of Stab 3, in which they recreated her old house. It's a pretty emotional scene.
Would you settle for a PG-13 relationship?
I think the writers did a pretty good job with these characters we love. You can tell they've grown, they've changed, and they have new obstacles to overcome. But there's a little problem.
Are you sure?
Yes, here's the thing. Gail, Dewey, and Sydney are perfectly set up. There's some great character stuff in there.
Well, tell me, Miss Weathers, was it worth it?
But the character stuff ends here. It feels like Erin Kruger forgot to have a payoff. For the rest of the movie, Dewey and Gail are back to the will they, won't they shtick we're all getting tired of. They love each other, but they hate each other. Who cares? And then, at the end, they get engaged, and that's it for them. As for Sydney, she's battling her inner demons, and she even shows anger towards her mom for being a hoe.
None of this would ever happen if she hadn't
Fucked everyone in town. So how about some closure with that? But fortunately, this character development is only hinted at without being fully, developed.
You're gonna play the game or go home.
Now that I think of it, the problem with the characters is pretty much the same as the problem with the themes of the movie.
Are you sure?
Yes, despite doubling down on the comedy and the silliness, Scream 3 deals with some heavy shit. We're talking sexual abuse, rape, trauma. Yes, all of those awful things in a movie that also has scenes like this. The film does a pretty good job at showing the shitty side of Hollywood, the creepy predators abusing women in exchange for movie roles.
So who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas.
remind me not to sleep with him again.
I did not fuck that pig Milton to get a leading role just to die here with second-rate celebrities like you two!
In fact, the whole plot revolves around that, as we learned that Sydney's mom, Maureen, had a secret life as an actress for a few years, and she worked with John Milton on a couple of horror movies.
I was well known for my parties. Men knew what they were. It was for girls like her to meet men. Men who could get them parts.
But in one of Milton's infamous parties, she was raped. She had a child, and she disowned him. And then she went back to Woodsboro, where she had Sydney. Well, holy shit, that's pretty dark. Safe to say, Scream 3 feels eerily relevant, especially in the wake of the Me Too movement. And I kinda like how Hollywood is pretty much the bad guy of this story. It's the cause of everything shitty that's happening. That being said, though, once again, this very interesting and layered subject is set up perfectly, and then doesn't really have a payoff. They don't do much with it. Sure, it ties in with the killer's motivations, and it's mentioned here and there.
Remind me not to sleep with him again.
But it more or less feels like a thing in the background, like an excuse to have another mystery to resolve, and a way to retcon things from the first movie to add some sort of unsatisfying finality to the trilogy. Okay, we need a new movie where another Ghostface tries to kill Sydney, so what do? Let's just make shit up. Anyways, I still think the ideas explored in Scream 3 are some of the most interesting this franchise has to offer, but could they have been less on the surface? Could they have been developed some more? Yes, absolutely. But hey, at least it's different.
Maybe they did take advantage of her.
Alright, we can't really talk about Scream 3 any longer without addressing the elephant in the room. Gail's fucking bangs. The shittiest haircut in movie history. God, what the hell were they thinking? Okay, more seriously though, we can't go on without talking about how shitty the kills are. God damn, are they terrible. Now, like I said before, the producers kind of forced this upon the movie to avoid any controversy, and the result is a bloodless movie that, without kidding, could almost be PG-13. That's how little gore there is. Of course, a great slasher film doesn't necessarily need any blood in order to be scary, but in Scream 3, almost every single kill is just a stab kill with no blood. Stab in the back, stab in the gut, stab off screen, throat slit with no blood. Guy gets thrown off a balcony, off screen. There is a serious lack of creativity here. It's almost embarrassing. If you're not gonna have any blood, then at least shoot the scene in a creative way. Make it scary. There's only one death scene that's pretty memorable just because of how terrible it is. And yes, we'll get back to it. But for the most part, there's really not much I can say other than cutting back the violence didn't help the film at all. And the result is a slasher movie with a high body count but no memorable kills. They're all boring, I hate them, and I give them 0 kilowatts out of 20. Wait, wrong show. Alright, let me drop a bomb here. Get ready for it. Scream 3 is stupid. Yes, it is a silly, stupid little movie that makes no goddamn sense and that constantly makes you go, huh? What the fuck? Hey, here's a drinking game. Take a shot every time something stupid happens. Wait, don't, because you won't survive and then I'll have a lawsuit to deal with. Okay, let me preface by saying this. There's some clever stuff in Scream 3. I won't deny it.
To do a cameo in some cheap slasher flick.
For one, some of the meta humor is pretty good.
Stab 3. Jesus, I gotta get a new agent.
I like some of the cameos, like Roger Corman talking about violence in movies.
Violence in cinema is a big deal right now, Roman.
Yet his whole career revolves around directing and producing the sleaziest, most gratuitous horror movies out there. Some of the jokes actually work, and I'm glad they're still poking fun at some of the worst horror cliches.
Don't do that.
But the meta stuff at one point does become perhaps a bit obnoxious.
Very Hannibal Lecter. Very Seven.
It feels like name dropping for the sake of name dropping, kind of like film school students trying to impress people with their knowledge of classic movies.
There are 3 different versions of the script, something about trying to keep the ending off the internet.
Wink wink, do you get it?
You little fuckers out there that think that's really cute.
In fact, it almost feels like a parody of itself. Funny enough, that same year, Scary Movie came out, and sometimes the two aren't that different. Instead of implementing the meta stuff naturally into the story, it sticks out like a sore thumb. The best example of this is the Randy cameo, which is a lot of fun. I like the guy, but the meta has just gone too far.
Karen Kolchak.
Yes, Karen Kolchak.
Creepy Karen?
Shut up!
Randy's sister, who's never been mentioned before, just shows up to give the guys a VHS tape where Randy predicted that he would die and that there would be another killer for the 3rd film. Come on, get out of here. Alright, meta stuff out of the way.
Hannibal Lecter.
Now we gotta talk about how stupid this film is. So let's just have fun and list everything that makes 0 sense, starting with that goddamn voice cloning machine. Listen, call me close-minded, call me snob, that shit is stupid and does not belong in a Scream movie.
Dewey's got our voices.
Case closed. Okay, speaking of something that doesn't belong in a Scream film, Ghost Mom. Listen, I really like that Sydney is haunted by her past. It adds more layers to her character. But this here feels like Wes Craven forgot what franchise he was in and started directing a Nightmare on Elm Street film. Plus, that Ghost Mom never even comes back for a payoff, so why even bother? It's just a bit silly. Okay, let's talk about the explosion scene. Oh god, just thinking about it is making me lose brain cells. Alright, so the group is in the house and they're being faxed by Ghostface, which is already kind of stupid.
What's it say?
So they cartoonishly get out of the house and then they come back in and then they go back out and they come back in. But then the guy playing fake Dewey decides that he just needs to know what the fax says.
I've gotta know!
He just needs to know.
I've gotta know!
So instead of running away to safety, he gets back in, looks at the fax, he starts reading a couple of sentences.
And the killer will give mercy to...
And then, I guess for some reason, he needs a lighter to read the rest, even though he was perfectly capable of reading that shit before.
And the killer will give mercy to...
It's almost as if they needed him to use the lighter so that he blows... Alright, either Ghostface is a medium, or either this is really dumb. I'll put my money on the second option. Why don't you guys just run away? Why can't this guy read when he could do that very well before?
Shit.
Huh? How come nobody smelled the gas? Ugh, okay, speaking of stupid, why is everybody so dumb in this movie? Why do people constantly split up, knowing full well this is the worst possible thing they could do?
Go find Roman and Jennifer, I'm gonna get the others.
We'd better split up.
Why does no one shoot Ghostface in the, in the face?
Yeah!
No, it's the third time they gotta deal with this shit. Shouldn't they know that you have to shoot the killer in the face, or otherwise he always gets up?
Where'd he go?
Hey, why is Dewey constantly falling down for no reason? Honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You really have to watch Scream 3 in order to understand how stupid it is.
Someone's gonna pay for this!
And although it does bring a sort of so bad it's good quality to it,
What's it say?
it's also kind of infuriating. Hey, did somebody say infuriating? Huh, that makes me think of the killer reveal. That's right, we've made it to the end, everybody. And it's time to know who Ghostface is this time around. Ready for it? Oh my god, this is so exciting. Oh, wait, who is that?
Roman Bridger, director.
Huh? Yeah, another Scream sequel, another shitty Ghostface reveal. I guess it's a curse at this point. Turns out the killer was Roman all along. You know, he's the film director making the third Stab movie. But I shouldn't even have to tell you because he's so memorable. Right? Alright, can I just address this first because it pisses me off? At one point in the third act, Gail finds Roman dead, and she checks his pulse to make sure he's really dead.
Is he dead?
And then, well, he turns out to be the killer.
Roman Bridger, director.
And here's her reaction.
Roman? It was Roman? Is he dead? It was Roman?
Hey, what the f- Never mention this ever again. So buddy, what's your secret? Can you just die on command? Anyways, the big twist here is that Roman is actually Sydney's stepbrother.
And brother.
That's right. When Maureen Prescott was raped back in her Hollywood days, she had Roman, but then she gave him up for adoption and she went back to Woodsboro. So now, I guess he's jealous of Sydney, which doesn't really explain why he killed every actor in this movie, but yeah, that's the reveal. Now, the thing that pisses me off the most here, aside from Gail finding his corpse only for him to be alive, is that they decided to retcon everything and make Roman the mastermind behind Maureen Prescott's murder.
Your boyfriend didn't like seeing his daddy in my film too much. He didn't like it at all.
Yes, you heard me right. Roman actually pulled the strings all along and made Billy and Stu kill her.
This is all because of you.
This completely ruins the first Scream film. Everything about Billy and Stu, the reveal, their motivation, their backstory. It's like none of it matters now because it was this little bitch Roman that told them to do it. Fuck you, Roman. Otherwise, the other obvious problem here is that Roman is just boring. It's exactly the same as Scream 2. Once the mask is off, the movie becomes boring. No fun banter and chemistry and charisma. No memorable dialogue.
It's a Scream, baby!
It's just Roman being a little bitch. At one point, this lady was also supposed to be a ghost face. She was supposed to be the accomplice, and well, that at least would have made a bit more sense because not only does Roman have the ability to not have a pulse on command, but somehow I guess he can also teleport now. What? He was lying on the ground 2 seconds ago. There are so many scenes in which he's stuck somewhere, and then next thing you know, oh, I'm behind you. Somehow, perhaps the writer thought Ghostface was a literal ghost who could walk through walls or something. Yeah, overall, terrible character, terrible reveal, terrible retcons. It just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Well, we did it. We survived Scream 3 together. And to be honest, this wasn't as bad as I thought.
It was great seeing you.
Oh, I've bitched a lot about this movie. Reasonably so, I would say. But I surprised myself having a lot of fun watching this train wreck. I liked some of the character stuff, some of the themes, some of the humor. I thought the side characters were pretty memorable and funny. There was some unintentional comedy here and there. And at least they did something different and unexpected, which is exactly what was missing from Scream 2. But of course, I still wouldn't consider this a great movie, and well, definitely not a great conclusion to the trilogy. As fun as it is, they just went too far with some of the stupid shit.
What's it say?
That voice cloning machine can still go fuck itself. Anyhow, I still had fun revisiting the highs and lows of this film, and I would recommend it for the entertainment value it has to offer once in a while. I'm gonna give Scream 3 2.5 ghost faces out of 5. And there we have it. My take on the black sheep of this franchise. A lot of people still defend it though. It found its niche, and it's just a lot of dumb fun. Well, that's about it for me. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to not read faxes sent from a serial killer. And until next time, keep watching horror movies. They're good for your health. Bye bye.